Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. What's going on, guys? Now, word to my brethren in Clearwater, Florida. Shout out to Clearwater, Florida. And speaking of Clearwater, Florida, St. Petersburg area, Tampa. Shout out to you guys over there. Keith, one time Thurman. He coming out, because he got his elbow surgery recently. He's saying that we're hearing that he's going to be out to the end of the year. He's saying he'll be back by the end of the year, but we just don't know. So hopefully we get one time back in the ring soon. But what he said in a recent article is that it's weird hearing this from him because he's always come off as a guy that's been very respectful of Kell Brook, but I gotta disagree with what he says in this article. So I'm gonna read you guys what he says. Here's what Keith Thurman had to say in regards to the special one, Kell Brook. He said, I quote, "Of course, Kell Brook came here to America to take the title back home, but for this one, he has fluctuated in weight classes. I'm just interested in how bad he wants to be a welterweight and establish himself as one of the best welterweights in the world today. It's going to be difficult moving back down to 147. If he wants to hold on to that title, and in my opinion, he didn't do enough at welterweight before moving up for me. That is what this fight is about. In my opinion, there is so much going on 147, but he had to go up 2 weeks just to make a big fight happen." So that's what he said. Wait. Oh, no, he actually had more to say. He said, then he went by saying, the one thing I do like is he got out of the Golovkin fight before he suffered more damage, so it wasn't severe. And as a fighter, seeing them back in the ring is great. But it's hard for me to be confident with Kell Brook because to me, he hasn't proved it. We will see what he's got. So let's backtrack here for a second, Mr. Keith One Time Thurman. Now, look, I got loads of respect for Keith Thurman. I think he's a tremendous fighter, and I think him versus any of the top fighters welterweight is a great fight. I think he's great for boxing, and I want him to continue to be successful because he helps boxing grow because of his personality. And only thing for Keith Thurman is I'll like to see him start getting more knockouts again. But that's besides the point. Kell Brook not being established 147. Are we kidding ourselves? Are you serious? Now I know he had his run where he was fighting Kevin Bizier and Jojo Dan and Frankie Gavin. And I get it, mandatory. But we cannot ever take away the fact that he came from Sheffield, from the UK, to America, all the way to California, Carson to be exact, StubHub Center. He fought a guy in Sean Porter who was undefeated at the time. Okay, the same Sean Porter that Keith Thurman, all right, and this is my opinion and the opinion of many people in the boxing community. Keith Thurman, he got. I don't want to call it a gift because honestly, I mean, it was a good fight. He did win a lot of rounds, but it was a fight I believe he lost, and a lot of people thought he lost. And Kell Brook, if we're gonna sit here and compare performances, when Kell Brook beat Sean Porter, he did it in much more convincing fashion. He was not only was his jab able to neutralize Porter, but so was a straight right hand, and he looked the part that night. He looked the part of a true world champion. Now, this is no disrespect to Keith Thurman, none whatsoever. But in the Sean Porter fight, I thought you lost that fight, and I thought you got the decision just because you are the more marketable fighter than Sean Porter. No other way around it. Against Danny Garcia, I thought you lost that fight too because you gave the second half away. But even if you did win the fight, you still left. You didn't really put the exclamation point on the Danny Garcia fight. Like for me, if you're the number one welterweight in the world or in any weight class for that matter, you gotta really at some point in the fight put an exclamation point against your opponent. And he didn't do that to me in the Porter fight, and he didn't do that in the Garcia fight. And when we look at what Kell Brook has done, he's never ever been one to fight down to his level of opposition. If you put him in there with a Jojo Dan, he dispatches of that type of fighter easily. If you put him in there with a Frankie Gavin, he dispatches of that caliber of fighter very easy. And then when you put him in there with Sean Porter, he beats Sean Porter way easier than Keith Thurman did. So what I'm saying is, I think Keith Thurman is definitely wrong. And you know what, man? I gotta come on and say it like this, man. American boxing fans, like shout out to all my American boxing fans and all the American fighters. Hopefully we can start doing a little more in the sport. But right now, man, the UK is doing their thing right now. You got to give them the credit where it's due. They got Anthony Joshua, they got Kell Brook, a lot of great fighters over there right now. And Kell Brook is being very disrespected, very very disrespected. Because people, for one, they haven't really watched many of his fights. They've watched maybe, I can guarantee you, most people out there who have seen Kell Brook fight, they've only really seen the Golovkin fight. They've seen maybe they've seen the Porter fight, and that's really it. You guys don't know anything about Kell Brook outside of the Porter and Golovkin fights. And this guy is a world class fighter for a reason. He's an IBF champion for a reason, and I've been saying this since January that his style is all wrong for Earl Spence, and I like Earl Spence. I think Earl Spence beats a lot of welterweights, but Kell Brook is not one of them. He just attacks in straight lines, and you guys will see on Fight Night. I'm not gonna get into that, but I think a lot of American fighters are disrespecting Kell Brook. I think a lot of American fans and media are overlooking Kell Brook because I think America right now is just so desperate for a star in boxing because we don't really have anybody. We have Terrence Crawford, who definitely has the A-class skills, but let's be honest here. I love Terrence Crawford, but he really don't have that personality that transcends and makes you a star in boxing. So boxing is kind of a two-sided coin. You can't, it's not enough to just be a skilled fighter. You also got to have some sort of personality. And Terrence Crawford don't have that personality yet. And if he does, he ain't really showing it to us. So that being said, people are getting desperate here in America for a star. And I think, a lot of you guys, you're setting yourselves up for a very, very big letdown on May 27th. I think, and look, if I'm wrong and Earl Spence goes there and he blows out Kell Brook, all the credit in the world to him. He should definitely be considered, definitely a top 3 welterweight because Kell Brook, I rate him very highly. Probably number 2 or number 1. Him and Pacquiao, and Thurman are all interchangeable to me. But Kell Brook's a very great fighter. And to go to Britain, to Bramall Lane and fight his people and beat him, that'd be big for Earl Spence. But I just think his style is all wrong for Kell Brook. And, people are discounting the fact that they're saying Kell Brook hasn't fought nobody, but who has Earl Spence really fought? What fighter has really made Earl Spence have to dig into his skill set and show us new dimensions to his fighting style? There really hasn't been a fight like that for him. He hasn't gotten that proper experience, and he's in the perfect position to be exposed. And if he doesn't get exposed and he wins, like I said, all the credit in the world to him. But Kell Brook is being disrespected and underestimated by a lot of American boxing fans. And, it kind of makes me sick, honestly. It makes me sick because here we have a guy in Kell Brook who you guys at one point in time for 3 or 4 fights were saying he was cherry picking everybody. He was fighting bums. He's a nobody. He goes up, he fights Golovkin. I know you guys are going to say he got his ass whooped, but he fought Golovkin, had more balls than probably any fighter in the weight class. Fought Golovkin, actually won a couple rounds, gave us some good moments, but ultimately wound up losing. Okay. Then you guys said he wouldn't make the weight. Now he makes the weight, and there's still a problem. So, boxing fans in America, let's not get desperate. Let's not get desperate for a star. We have talented fighters here, but let's let the fighters actually prove that before we actually crown them. And that's what it is. I think Keith Thurman's way out of balance with his comments here. Kell Brook, to me, is definitely, I think, to be honest, personally for me, just because of how he beat Sean Porter and the fashion he did, I put him over Keith Thurman because Keith Thurman, to me, lost that fight. He really lost that fight to me. So that's what it is. You guys can let me know in the comments down below what you think. Take the time to subscribe, and you can love me or you can hate me. But I'm just a kid from Dean. So until next time, take care, guys.